army moves to here, and if it's here, it puts its militia here, 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 and then they fight with the enemy army, who is doing the same.
It's you're thinking of you can give units just a list of commands to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not RTS. RTS is you give
it's offhands RTS.
You give it one command, and then you have to be ready to give it the next command.
But it's just giving the commands for you through the command string. It does the one command, and then does the next one. The next one in real time.
It sounds like you're putting way too much emphasis on being in guerrilla warfare. I was just thinking of it as the battle's starting and you want to give your units a better chance of survival. You can move them around and hide them.
And then they can just pick off the other people.
Not kind of a you have to do this in the game. Just a if you want to, you can.
But how would you do that as the player? Would you go from...
Take a unit and tell it to go there?
And what you would see on the overworld when they're not in battle is 10 single units just moving in formation.
Yes.
And they would either fight as those 10 units in formation, or they would be able to split them up individually.
You as the player can split them up individually.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what you would do. How would the player split them up individually? Click each one, and then move them where he wants them?
I don't... Some kind of selection system.
Yeah, that's how most RTSs play.
So they'd have to move all the way back. Well, they'd have to look back or select an option to view, give the commands, and then continue on their way. Yeah. Doing it that way, I think it just breaks the flow too much. Like before, where we were thinking you just switched views, you became like the lieutenant, and you were in a different map, and you had that kind of location. Position matters. It seemed okay because you transitioned to it, but then now it's the player goes from being a hero, a nobody hero, to being a general, placing his troops around where he wants them, and then going back to being the hero who was a nobody, searching for his mystical power. I don't see the divide from gameplay seems too jarring just in the transition. That's all.
So, then how was there not going to be a transition before?
Well, that's the thing. It needs a transition.
Right.
Couldn't we just make it so that, like, as they, let's say, Kevin gets to the city and he acquires some equipment that allows him to look at his army from, like, again, that sort of equipment, and then it looks like every time you press this certain button, it goes to overworld, and
that could work.
He plans it.
That gives some sort of transition. Yes.
Because that could be easily done.
Yeah.
And then while he does that, the other part, I guess, pauses or something while he goes to look at the overworld.
Mm-hmm. Now I want to return to a previous part of the strategy conversation, and that's if Kevin could come in and fight the battle as well. How would that play out in the guerrilla warfare mode?
Well, if you're looking at 30-second battles, then
He doesn't.
it really doesn't play a part.
Yeah, I was gonna say he doesn't need to join in.
It's more of just either Kevin goes on and takes on the whole.
Say he's there from the beginning. Say it just happens right in front of him. What could he do? Even if it is only 30
I
seconds
mean,
long.
I don't know. It's with 30 seconds it gets tricky. Because if it's 30 seconds, he should be able to take out the entire army by himself. Because there's no way you can position your troops and then use Kevin to engage.
What would happen in an army versus Kevin?
Well, it would have to be a fair fight, or he has to be able to get away easily.
What kind of game? What would happen? Would he have to run up to the enemy militia and hit them while they are hiding in position? And he would have to be able to run around them and hit them.
Yeah, I guess.
And then the enemy wouldn't move.
I think Kevin, if he were to go into that type of thing, he would just have a gigantic health bar, and then he would have to run up to the enemy and hit them. And if that health bar ran out, then that was his indicator to say, "Hey, I have to go back now."
While Kevin is better than the average militia, I don't think he should be able to take in a whole army by himself.
I didn't think he would.
I don't think he'd be that
Yeah.
type. He wouldn't have that strength. But how I envision it with the two armies is he could just pop in and do extra damage by hitting them, just being next to them. And with each militia split up, you have to hit them, run to the next one. If it is a battle that only lasts 10 seconds, militia are dropping quickly. But even if the battle's like 2 minutes, it seems to linger on too long.
2 minutes isn't that bad.
Well, if it's 2 minutes, you could actually use Kevin then.
Yeah.
You can do the setup strategy and then jump back into him and be able to actually engage in the battle.
If we can compare this to a regular RTS, they don't last like that. They last so long. The minimum is.
They do,
30
but they
minutes.
require the build up
That's
till the
true.
battle. The battles don't really take that long. It's just that they have to build their base, their infrastructure, their supply lines, and then the battle takes place, and usually ends quickly, and it's whoever can rebuild their army.
But the build up doesn't take that long. The build up usually takes maybe 5 to 10 minutes, and then the battle lasts for another
It
5
depends
minutes.
on what kind of
That-
battle.
That is true.
There are 30-second battles and there are 5-minute battles.
I think we just have to extend the time for the RTS a tiny bit. I think 30 seconds is a bit too short. And I think our limit should be at the most 2 minutes.
We can edit the time. That's no problem.
Or we could just have a time limit on the
Oh.
RTS saying that after this amount of time, whoever has the most units left wins, or something like that. Or whoever has the most ground covered wins.
I was thinking of doing something like that, kind of like how the board game Go plays. But that seemed too in-depth. That would require too much from the player. I want the RTS to be a sort of fire and forget. So that's why there was the code lines. So that you can go in depth with the code lines if you want. But you mostly focus on playing Kevin. And you only ever really come into play the RTS if you want to fight the battle and help out as Kevin. So I remember that being a big thing, that we just wanted this to be optional.
Well, do we want to just make one of the side characters in charge of that, and you can jump into it as a side quest kind of thing? So there's a main character in charge of dealing with the RTS if you don't want to deal with it. Or you can play as them if you want to do it.
Yeah, I thought that was Lexi. She was supposed to be in charge.
Because like
well, I see
you
Lexi
said
more
earlier,
as the defense.
Kevin really doesn't have a part in militia control.
And now we can have a like lieutenant or commander or something, other side character that
you want
Kevin interacts with him, and then he can set up everything how he wants.
So new side character.
That yes, and that just completely changes the way it plays, but not as Kevin.
Right, it's a second kind of storyline.
Yeah.
In the same game.
That could work. Though, let me see if I should have it on this computer. Alright, let me upload to Drive in Designs. Alright, here's an idea I had while I was coming up with the RTS. It's in the Designs folder called KZAV Various Ideas Text. And what happens is, towards the end of the game, something happens to really piss off the player, or to affect the player. But I don't want it to be something cheap like Lexi died.
No.
Or as Lexi is killed. I don't want anything like that at all. But something's like taken from them. They're pissed. So, but they're given the option. They can go straight towards the boss instead of doing the last temple. And if they do that, they get instant revenge. But they didn't get all the power stones, so it's not really the good ending. But while they're on their way, there's like a bunch of the enemy army, and they're just trying to block the way, but all of the militia come with Kevin as well, and they're just fighting in the background. And then Kevin gets to go into a platform section, except there's no platform, it's just a flat path, and he's just like one-shotting soldiers as he walks by all pissed. Then he just smacks down a boss, and then he goes into the final stage. And if he does the last temple instead, he restrains himself. There is no final army. And the reason I bring this up is, alright, then something that you can think about story-wise. If we do the RTS with our guerrilla warfare way, how would we play that off?
What do you mean? Like,
how would we allow the two massive armies to engage?
Well, if you have a side character doing the control instead. If you don't want to do it.
I want to take away player control from this spot. Like, it would be a little extra code. I'm sure you could pull that off where the RTS mode ends and these two armies just clash. And really, it'd be a standstill until Kevin fights. Like how I imagine it is in the overworld, you just see the two armies clash, and it's a battle that rages forever until Kevin runs right through the middle and beats the leader. And then while Kevin's in the platform stage, on the background you see the battle progressing, like soldiers will run by, militia will die, and then as you progress further, you'll see that your army's pushing to win. And then when Kevin kills the boss, both armies go away. So basically you'd have to make just the armies invincible as they fight.
Yeah.
And there's no, but how would that play out with the militia mode?
Well, you just disable it.
And have it as the two armies clash.
Yeah, you just, nothing you can do.
No unit management. And what do you guys think of that idea?
We can always do it like they do in COD games.
What do you mean?
They always
Overwatch?
have two independent storylines that are connected, and you jump back and forth between
Yeah.
them every other mission. You can do the same thing here,
Mm-hmm.
where after you defeat a temple, you jump over into the RTS storyline, and you beat a.
Well, I'd want to avoid doing two storylines, even if they do interconnect. But like having a at-will switch, like maybe, like Dexter said, they give Kevin a radio, and he can call in from anywhere to the lieutenant and say how's things going, and then he can play as the lieutenant, set everything up, then go back to Kevin.
That can be easily done then. Yeah,
And there's the AC.
gotta love that.
So what do you guys think of that idea for the second to last level?
Second to last. You mean like second to last temple?
Yeah. That idea that something happens and Kevin has to either go to the last temple or run straight to the boss. If he restrains himself, he gets the good end. If he doesn't, he gets the revenge end.
So you have.
He gets to
so
feel
you
like a
have
total
two different
badass.
storylines at the very end. Multiple.
Yeah, multiple endings, yeah.
No, I guess the problem I see with it right now is the bad end, quote unquote, is the really good one to play through, but the
Yeah,
good end
it
is
is.
not the good one to play through. And if it's not easy to do them both, that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
annoying.
It is, though. With how we're planning this, I think we kind of alleviate that because it'll be a quick game
Yeah.
and it will be skill based with the platforming section. If you're good at it, you can really breeze through it. If you have trouble, then you'll probably miss out on that second ending.
Right.
Is there anything that we can add so that, like, once you beat it in a certain mode, there's something that you earn?
Well, you said that before, and I was thinking of adding different characters after you beat it. Like you could play once as Lexi, and she'll have something different, but not quite temples. Or maybe she'll do the temples as well, but she gets different powers than Kevin would have, and Kevin would take Lexi's place. And the same for Rose. And change the storyline a bit.
We could do that.
Yeah, we could do that, and that's when you said that. That's what I was thinking of. We could try something else, like maybe they could be like the epilogue stories.
The what?
The epilogue, the ending. Like you beat the game as Kevin, and then you can play as Lexi, and she picks up with what happens after that. And you can play as Rose, and she's what after that. But then it's kind of like what's the new protagonist, what's the antagonist, what's the crisis, and do it all over again. Or it can be not. I mean, I'll say that
Well, that's
playing Red Dead Redemption, my favorite part was where you just lived on the farm and did all the manual chores. And we could just have something like that with Lexi. And Rose can be something more undercover, and maybe she's in trouble for being a corrupt cop.
Again, all this can be done. I'm just
Mhm.
time.
Well, I'm
time
just
constraint.
spitballing ideas to you. Getting what do you guys think of, or what alternatives do you present for how can we include the other characters to a game plus?
I would
New game
rather have it so that once you beat the game, you could play through it with a different character.
All right. And what would happen to the temples and the power-ups?
I think the temples and the temples would just be Kevin's thing. I think Lexi and Rose would have different like storylines, and they don't get like power ups. They get like equipment, and the way that
So
they just get it through different missions that they have to do.
they get a completely new game. Same kind of format, but they get a new storyline and everything. And they can't do the RTS battles.
I think
you
still be able to like, it's like playing through the story, just doing it through Lexi's view or through Rose's view.
Except they can't do the temple. So Kevin would be off doing the temples while they're doing these other
and
things.
I can write that into the story now, saying that, oh, this one's doing this doing this, while Kevin is doing this already.
All right, and don't forget the
new side character,
side missions.
Well,
not the only new side character, but side missions, like how they would help out for like one temple. They would help Kevin out for one temple, and the player would switch to them in the main story.
What?
If this is an idea, why don't we take the RTS and do it as the same thing? Take it out of the Kevin storyline and have it as a separate character line.
We can have that for.
Well, would he only do the RTS mode?
Well, it's like something you unlock, like the other characters.
Yeah.
So you beat the game, then you can go play through the RTS mode, or.
Would it be deep enough to?
I mean, we're already doing that with the other two characters, so why couldn't we be able to?
Well, they're playing the same game basically as Kevin did. The RTS mode is a whole new gameplay style. So I'm just at, is it deep enough? Do you feel it's deep enough on its own that people would play it for the RTS
I think
mode
we
only?
can get it to that point, or I feel like we need to somehow link the playthroughs together. So something you do in one affects the other one. I don't know how you would ever do that, but
wait, say that again.
Kind of not have them all be individual playthroughs, but they're all interconnected. Kind of like Mass Effect style. What you do in one area affects another one.
I think that can be done.
It could, but I think it splits the focus too much, and that when you're forced to play one character first, that kind of also impacts it in a negative way. Even though you're going to have to be able to, well, you could choose, but generally the designers are going to plan for you to play one character first and build from there. I just don't know if the RTS mode is like, again, we wanted it to be optional from the beginning, and if we make it a side story, it has to be deep enough to get people to want to play it and play it for any length of time, and we have to do that without taking away from the main game.
Then can we have it so like the RTS is a little bit different for each character?
I think it would be if the RTS is a separate character, well, a side character that anyone can interact with, the RTS would not be different.
Right.
Because it's the same guy with the same troops, and it just would be weird that he's also leading the police force or the SWAT team that Rose commands or whatever. And then we have to either make a new character as the SWAT team leader who functions the same, but that kind of takes away from the other side character who's the militia guy. I kind of like the leader, the militia leader, being a side character that anyone can interact with at any point and give the RTS commands.
I have an idea. No,
What's that?
so like, let's see. What if the militia just changes a little bit? for each character, so that Kevin has just like regular militia, Rose has like police force militia, and then Lexi has like animal militia.
And who would lead each of those
Same
militias?
dude. Same side character.
Now, wouldn't that seem odd to you?
With a little bit. It's just a crazy idea that it's like, what if this could happen?
Well, this guy that leads the militia also leads the police force and also leads a herd of animals. I mean, it's possible, it's doable, and it's been done before, but it seems kind of a bit immersion breaking, and that's not consistent. It's just this guy is always our leader, and if we have a separate guy as a separate leader, if we want to develop that militia leader as a character, that's going to hinder him a lot. If we don't, and he just wants to be just some guy, some side character that we remodel for each character story playthrough, then that works.